If you ask yourself, what do I want my attitude to be when things go wrong? You're not going to say, I want to be annoyed, I want to be upset. When you ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? You're more likely to say, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be annoyed about this. And having answered it that way, you will make some effort not to be angry and not to be frustrated. I'm not saying it's a panacea or a cure-all, but it does work. And I'll give you an example where it helped me a couple of years ago. I was driving in the western suburbs of Chicago in heavy rush hour traffic. Came to a set of traffic lights, turned left at the traffic lights, and a few seconds after turning left, I noticed in my rear view mirror a mobile discotheque. Cop car, flashing lights. So I pulled to the slower lane, he pulled to the slower lane. And I remember saying to myself, well, Holy St. Patrick and St. Bridget. Bit of respect there, please. Holy St. Patrick and St. Bridget, what could that fine officer of the law want from an upstanding citizen like me? Now, that was the gist of what I was thinking. I may have said just one four-letter word. But for those of you whose mind is in the gutter, the word was oops. Which, as you all know, stands for uh-oh, police, stop. Right, so I pulled into a little small parking lot at the side of the road, and as I was pulling in, I said to myself, now why does he want to speak to me? And the only reason I could figure why he might want to speak to me was when I had turned left at the traffic lights. They were slightly red, but not by a whole lot now, mind you. So, he is there on his computer checking me to see if, in my case, I'm a member of the Irish Republican Army, or even worse, a Cubs fan. Go White Sox! I have to tell you, depending on who I'm speaking to, I obviously try and put in a kind of an answer to that gets a reaction. But when I was speaking up near the Green Bay area a couple of years ago, I made the comment that the cop was checking to see if I was a member of the Irish Republican Army, or worse, a Packers fan. I didn't think I would get out of that room alive. So he was there checking my computer to see what my record was like. And I asked myself the question that I said you should ask when things go wrong. So I asked myself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? And I said there's no point in being antsy and annoyed about this. He probably doesn't understand the concept of slightly red lights. So in my side mirror, I see him walking up towards me. And this being Chicagoland area, I prayed that he had an Irish name. I prayed that he had this vision of Ireland, that the roads are still unpaved, that milk is brought to the creamery via donkey and cart, and that traffic lights, if they exist at all, are, well, basically advisory. I look up. Officer Schmidt, who proceeded to tell me in minute detail what I had done wrong. He asked for my license and he asked for my insurance. Now, none of this is made up, I promise you. I had asked myself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? As he is looking at my license, he says to me, sir, I like your attitude. I'm thinking, woohoo, I'm getting away with this. Then he looks at my insurance and he says, sir, your insurance certificate is out of date. My wife normally looks after that, officer. He smiled. I think he realized he was dealing with one more administratively incompetent husband. Ladies, you know the story, I'm sure. And he just handed back the insurance certificate to me and he said, look, take it easy on that one. Now, I should tell you that this event happened on the 16th of March. Okay? One day before St. Patrick's Day. So the rest of the conversation went as follows. We're having great, good fun, and as you will see, it continued that way. So the rest of the conversation went, how much will this cost me, officer? He said, I'll cite you for the red light. I'll leave you go on the insurance. That'll cost you $75, sir. $75? Do you know how many pints of Guinness I can get tomorrow for $75? The guy cracked up laughing. I think he thought I was on crystal meth. And he said to me, sir, if I was to cite you for the red light and the lack of insurance, this would be significantly more expensive. You'd have to go to a traffic court. So I said, thank you, I appreciate the break you're giving me. I pull into a very small parking lot with only one access and egress, so I had to turn the car around and drive by Officer Schmidt. As I drove by Officer Schmidt, I kid you not, he waved to me with a genuine smile. That was how the conversation had gone. And I said, this is crazy. This guy's waving to me with a genuine smile, and he's after fining me $75. And I waved back to him with a genuine smile, saying, this is really crazy. He's fined me $75 and I'm waving back to him. But what Officer Schmidt, though, would not have known was that for only $75, I had got a really memorable anecdote about the importance of asking yourself a really powerful question when things go wrong. And when things go wrong, and they will for every single person in this room at some stage, the question to ask yourself is, what do I want my attitude to be? It's a powerful question. If you get stuck in a traffic jam on the 88 this afternoon or 3:55 or going home and there's nothing you can do about it, ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? If you've got problems at work next week and something goes wrong, and it will, it's human nature, ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? If you've got a colleague who's struggling at work next week and you see that they're not in the best of form, if you can ask that person to remember what the Irish guy said last Friday, what do I want my attitude to be? It can make a difference. Your behavior creates your brand, believe it or not. How you behave determines what people say about you. What people say about you is what your brand actually is. But let's go back to Officer Schmidt for a second, and I want to give you an example of behavior here. After that incident with Officer Schmidt where he gave me the $75 ticket, I went home to my darling wife of so many years looking for sympathy. Did I get it? No. See, you women are all the same. So I'm sitting there at the kitchen table looking for sympathy and saying to my wife, well, do you know how many pints of Guinness I could get tomorrow for $75? Nothing. This is after 22 years of happy marriage. Now we've been married 29. But after a couple of minutes, my wife comes over and she puts a piece of paper down on the kitchen table and she said, I gave you that insurance certificate about 4 weeks ago. I knew you wouldn't put it in the car. I looked up at her and I said, so it's your fault. When I regained consciousness, the frying pan, as we call it back in Ireland, was in one hand, divorce papers in the other. But she didn't actually go through with the divorce proceedings, though. But to this day, though, and you men in the audience I know will be able to help me on this, I cannot convince my wife that it was her behaviour that was at fault. So if the men in the audience ever meet my darling wife, just kind of try and win my side of the argument for me. But that's obviously a goofball example about behaviour, though. But your behaviour, as part of the Gift of GAB, goals, attitudes, behaviour, creates your brand. There's one simple little thing that I suggest to people that will help you to create an even better brand experience and brand behaviour for the people that you work with. Each of you, I think, has got a program in front of you. Before you leave today, I'd like you to write down 3 words on that program. And maybe on a piece of paper, roughly the size of a credit card, write the 3 words down. And the 3 words I'd like you to write down that will make a difference to the Gift of GAB that you bring to other people is, if you were to write down the 3 words that you would like people to say about you after they have dealt with you. Because they're the 3 words that effectively describe your brand. One of the things about my homeland, Ireland, which is a welcoming, wonderful, magical, mystical land. It's a land of legends and of leprechauns. And one legend has it that at the end of every rainbow, you'll find a leprechaun and a pot of gold. Now, leprechauns are small, fairy-like creatures that bring you good luck, well-being, and happiness. And I remember my granddad said they were only about this size. But leprechauns bring you well-being and happiness. And also, they say that late at night, they say this back in the village, that late at night, if you're very lucky, and if you're very quiet, you can sometimes see leprechauns dancing on mushrooms. That's right, not smoking mushrooms, dancing on mushrooms. Especially when they are happy because leprechauns have reached out and helped someone in need. Leprechauns dancing on mushrooms, helping someone in need. Now that's a pretty rosy story, and as you move further and further away from the magic and from the mystery of your childhood, why, it's one you might not even believe. But one thing you can believe though, is that you can bring the colours of the rainbow, you can bring the magic of the leprechaun, and you can bring the spirit of that Irish legend into your heart and into the heart of others when you reach out and help someone you know who's going through tough times today. The gift of GAB, goals, attitudes, behaviour. If you had a goal to reach out and help someone in need today, and I would bet that everyone here in this room knows someone today who is struggling. That's the world that we're living in. But if you were to reach out and help someone, you can make a difference to that person. And when you reach out and help that person, you may well actually sow a seed. And that next person may reach out and help someone else, and the next person may reach out and help someone else, and the next person may reach out and help someone else. Every one of us here has been someone else at some stage. I arrived in after lunch, and there on my desk was a potted plant. Not a pot plant, irrespective of what you say about medicinal marijuana. It was a potted plant. And its bright flowers are brightening the room, but the message attached to it really brightened my heart. And the message read, Conor, life is not always fair. Hang in there. Signed, Carmel. Now, Carmel was a work colleague who I actually often butted heads with, to be honest with you. But her simple act of kindness on that day helped me and encouraged me to stay in the organisation, where I eventually became ultimately very successful. And that's why you're stuck with me here now this afternoon, because I was transferred to the United States. But her simple act of kindness, though, helped me appreciate the impact that simple acts of kindness can have on someone when they are going through tough times. It was 19 years ago I received that potted plant. But even today, when times are tough, when I don't get the business that I want or a contract falls through, I tell you, I can still see that potted plant. Its bright red flowers shining like a beacon for me, helping me and encouraging me to go through and be able to beat the tough times. And you know what? Everyone here in this group today can provide a potted plant, real or symbolic, to someone you know who's going through tough times right now. And even given the economy that we're in, some of you might be saying, hey, I'm the person who's going through tough times. I'm not getting the kind of salary that I want. My spouse can't find a job. My husband is out, my kid is out of work. I'm overstressed, I'm overworked. But if that's the case, you more than anyone would appreciate if someone were to pick up the phone, send an email, write words of encouragement, or give a hug of support. And everyone here in this room could do it. And if everyone here in this room wants to have a goal that you would reach out and help someone who is struggling, and you do know someone who is struggling, it can make a real difference to you. It can make a real difference to Edward Hospital as well. Imagine if on Monday you reached out and helped someone at work. Imagine if that someone on Tuesday reached out and helped someone else. Imagine if on Wednesday the next person reached out and helped someone else. Imagine if on Thursday. Imagine what would happen if someone made the first effort to reach out and help. I know you're working with a great organisation, but everyone struggles at times. And you can make a difference to that one person. And when you make that one person happier, you can make a difference to the whole organisation as well. A simple little act of kindness can make a difference. One simple little example on that, I'll go back to the potted plant example that I was talking about. When I finally say goodbye to this world, and when I finally talk my way past St. Peter at the pearly gates, That's going to be an interesting conversation, I tell you. I expect to see, sitting in one of the premier rows in heaven, Carmel, the lady who gave me that potted plant. And there is a rule in heaven, it was introduced by the HR department, that you return, sorry Carrie, okay, that you return potted plants to the giver. I'll go over to Carmel and I'll say to her, with my potted plant, I'll say, Carmel, I never liked potted plants. But the day you gave me that potted plant, you brought the colours of the rainbow, you brought the magic of the leprechaun, and you brought the spirit of that Irish legend into my heart. And you helped me when I was struggling. Thank you. And you know what might well happen? Given the way we are as human beings are, quite likely Carmel might say, Conor, I don't even remember that incident. But I do, and it made a difference to me. And you probably remember the time that someone reached out to help you. I can remember something from 19 years back. It can make a difference to everyone. And so when I finally take my seat in heaven and I look across the aisle, and given the spirit of goodwill and generosity that is in this room, I expect to see, sitting across the aisle, you, and you, and you, and you, and you, surrounded by potted plants. A potted plant representing an act of kindness where you helped someone who was struggling. A potted plant that cost you nothing. To the receiver was priceless. A potted plant you may have forgotten. The receiver never forgotten. A potted plant, all the hues and the colours of the rainbow, red and orange and green and yellow and blue. A potted plant that had both of you, receiver and giver, dancing on mushrooms. The gift of GAB, goals, attitudes, behaviour. If you've got a goal to reach out and help someone, you can make it a top of the morning experience for you and for other people. All of you are here today because you've done fantastic work for Edward Hospital over the years. And I think what each of you should do is give yourself a giant round of applause for what you have done. There's one particular lady here, Donna Carlson, who's in the front row, who joined Edward Hospital in 1865. Oh no, oh 1965. Oh sorry, yeah. I was really intrigued about how well that Botox was working. But 1965 though was actually a pretty interesting year. I mean, in 1965 Naperville still voted Democratic. In 1965, St. Patrick was but a lad. Pam Davis was still in diapers. And if you're a Cubs fan, 1965 was actually a good year as well. It was. It was only 57 years since you last won the World Series. Now, Donna joined the Edward Hospital in the medical records area, and I know you're saying 1965 medical records didn't exist then. Well, I was talking to her earlier and she said they did. Basically it was things like there are only two kind of categories, dead, not dead. All of you are here today because you've done fantastic work for Edward Hospital over the years. And I think what each of you should do is give yourself a giant round of applause for what you have done. There's one particular lady here, Donna Carlson, who's in the front row, who joined Edward Hospital in 1865. Oh no, oh 1965. Oh sorry, yeah. I was really intrigued about how well that Botox was working. But 1965 though was actually a pretty interesting year. I mean, in 1965 Naperville still voted Democratic. In 1965 St. Patrick was but a lad. Pam Davis was still in diapers. And if you're a Cubs fan, 1965 was actually a good year as well. It was. It was only 57 years since you last won the World Series. Now, Donna joined the Edward Hospital in the medical records area, and I know you're saying 1965 medical records didn't exist then. Well, I was talking to her earlier, and she said they did. Basically, it was things like there are only two kind of categories: dead, not dead.